can you see this person's perspective, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Well, here we are. It is launch date time. I know we're hydrating. You know what? I did the lookup, and it said for me to be on I have a new way of eating to try to keep diabetes at bay. I'm just going to tell you, self-love. I'd like to keep my legs and my eyes. That's just, there you go. Like them. So I put in my weight and my goal weight, and it said, how much water should I drink a day? 16 of these. I went, what? 16?
Well,
I'm going to.
If it makes you feel any better, I drink 2.5 of these.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
And I don't even like the way water tastes.
Well, I do sometimes.
That's why I have some tart cherry juice in there to spice it up.
See, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. Well, today we're going to talk about, last week we're going to pull anxiety that we discussed. Anxiety and grief are two things we are living with and dealing with. Oh my gosh. Everybody. And I thought, how's your head, everybody? How's your head? How are you doing right now with all that's going on? And I think there's a lot of stuff that we're not even recognizing what anxiety is and what grief is. I got a phone call, and now if someone says, hey, do you know so-and-so? I don't want to say yes, because they're going to tell me that they are gone. It's like, no, just stop with the death. I understand transition is transition, and we all going to do it. It is appointed to every man to die. And we all know that we are, but I'm overwhelmed.
Well, there's also a natural process. And if someone is calling us, like, we all know this person, right? You don't really hear from them a lot, but you do hear from them when there's some juicy stuff to tell. So I have learned just to let that go to voicemail and not get engaged with it. If it's something that, that way you can monitor and screen and then not go there if you don't need to or want to. Because that does spike anxiety on a deeper level for us.
I've become anxious about the grief. I have a dear friend right now who, well, first of all, we all know that we've lost people close to us. And I really think that we've lost our minds as far as making everything a political issue that should be a medical or a biologic one. Because it's made us say things on social media that we would never have said before.
Right.
Hurtful things. And if someone had a different political leaning than us and they died of COVID, or they died, period, and the assumption was COVID. I actually had someone respond to a non-political post or something, just a sad loss over a friend, and said, the world's a lot brighter now that they're not in it. And it's somebody that I loved, both the person that passed and the person who posted. And I didn't know how to respond to that.
That's heavy.
That's heavy. It really is. I thought, where are we that no matter what political leaning, when someone leaves this planet, that it gives us the right to come on someone else's grieving time and say, well, they should have died.
To make the agenda about, really, it's making the agenda about us.
Yeah.
Because our opinion is more important than another person's pain.
Yeah. And it's a tough situation where we're in. And so that is an anxiety of, I'm afraid of what to post. I'm afraid of, and I couldn't help comparing, because I've had people who were not vaccinated that have passed away, and people who are fighting for their life right now who were double vaccinated. who are in the hospital with COVID, a variant that, and it's not COVID's fault. It's not anything's fault. It's what we are as a people. Now, how do we deal with that?
Well, first things, if you have someone posting and social media is such a small part it's a small part, but it's a huge part of how we show up as human beings, right? So if you have someone posting things that are a little sideways on your wall, and this is for you, this is for anyone listening.
Yeah.
First things first, if you're not comfortable with what they've posted, delete it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can send them a private message and just say, hey, I deleted that post. It was unnecessary. That's not about being confrontational. That's about setting your boundaries and standing up for where you are in that. And if it's your grief or something of that nature, then you have the right to decide how you want to stand in that. Now,
I handled it the way I always handle it. I run away.
No, Devon, no.
I run away. No, I can't handle conflict.
Girl, you call me next time. You call me next time. We're gonna handle it.
No, I hid. I did not delete, but I hid the comment. So okay. I did do that, but I did not confront the person. I did not do that But
confrontation is not a bad thing. I have someone that I used to, and I say used to, love dearly as a friend. I'm talking about 30-something years ago. Mm-hmm. And I had posted something several years ago on my Facebook page, and it was just about someone retiring from a sport, and they came to my page and were like, just dumped a whole bunch of stuff that, one, I wasn't aware of, and two, had nothing to do with what I was sharing about. Mm-hmm. And so I gave them the opportunity to delete it themselves, and if they didn't, then I was going to delete it for them. They wanted to go back and forth and banter a little bit. And I was like, we're not having this discussion for the world to see. We can talk on the phone if you'd like to do that, or a message. Secondly, my stance is firm. Either you can delete it as a friend, or I can delete it as a friend. And they deleted it. Of course, then they went into martyr zone. I just can't do anything right. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry. I am not punching that ticket, not getting on that crazy train. Go on, let the train leave the tracks. I don't care. I'm not a part of that. So knowing where you stand and knowing that, what is it in us that is, if we do find ourselves conflicted when people post things and make everything an agenda. Yeah. Being able to say, hey, you're missing the point. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to argue this. In fact, I'm not going to argue this.
Right.
My post implied this, and that's my stand. So respect that, please. Do whatever you want to do on your own wall, but don't bring that and dump it on mine.
Right. Rhonda says, I'm so sick of the political spin on everything. Elizabeth says, I'd block that person from my Facebook. Oh, the block button involves zero confrontation. It does. You're right. Joyce, I agree. I do not want negative or political posts on my page. And Tim, amen, sister.
I mean,
always get an amen from the Tim corner.
Right. But here's the thing. You don't have to. I get it. Social media is social. People will say I have the right to post whatever I want to post, but it does create a bit of anxiety for people, because it's like, if you're posting something that you think is harmless and someone that just needs to stir the shit pot, pardon the language there, but if they need to stir it, then they need to lick the spoon. And that means that you need to be able to be comfortable in your own space to claim your voice, claim your wall. Mm-hmm. Write what you want to write on your wall, respond however you want to on other people's, but this is my space. This is my Facebook thread. And and I tell people, I don't typically ever intentionally post confrontational stuff. It's all warm and fuzzy, feel good, or awareness. And sometimes awareness is not warm and fuzzy. But if you bring that duffel bag of crap and you think you're going to lay it down and start a conflict on an individual wall, you have the right to say no. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever.
Satan.
I'm not playing that game, Beelzebub.
Truth. That is where we are. And we do have the right to negate those kind of posts. And I do. I don't leave them up. I don't interact with that, because here's the deal. I will not take the bait if I know someone's trying to pull me in.
Right.
Someone asked me, they said, well, you don't stand for anything. I said, no, I stand for a lot of things. I stand for love. I stand for peace. I stand for doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. I stand for Kentucky basketball and puppies, and there you go. That's
big difference. You stand for a lot of stuff. You just don't tolerate bullshit.
Yeah, true. And I don't think that has it ever been, or nor will it ever be. I don't care if you're red or blue to be my friend. If you're kind, that matters to me. You can disagree with me. And that's, I think, where a lot of people are right now. They're going, wait a minute, we are so polarized. We're going to have people stand up in the middle and going, no, just no, we're not. That's where the anxiety stops. I don't have to pick your side or your side. If I have to pick your side to be a friend, then you're not my friend.
Well, and we create this unintentional anxiety because, we're worried about what people think. We're worried about losing friends, or possibly having family members get upset with us. We are, I say we as collectively, a lot of people are worried about that stuff. Mm-hmm. But when you start setting boundaries for yourself and you feel comfortable in those boundaries, you realize you're not being confrontational. You're simply teaching a person how to treat you. That's all you're doing.
Yes.
You're not being confrontational.
Setting our own boundaries.
Yeah.
Elizabeth weighing in. I tested positive for COVID. First of all, Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. You won't see it shared publicly on her Facebook page. I don't want the lectures from either side. Someone always has to bring in the drama, because there are some people right now looking for someone to blame. Mm-hmm. And we're so overwhelmed by grief. Therefore, we must blame whatever. We got to blame the Chinese. We got to blame the Republicans, got to blame the Democrats. We got to blame somebody, because this is uncomfortable. This is hard. And I stand for a lot of things, but I don't find the need to state all my stands publicly. I care about what it is in a person's heart.
Right.
Joyce agreed. Tim, good stuff right there. Love, kindness, compassion, and positive vibes. Leave the drama for your mama. That is our Tim.
Well, and that's the thing is that, well, first and foremost, Elizabeth, I hope you feel better real soon, whether it's COVID or whether it's a stump toe. I still hope you feel better. Right. And secondly, that's, in my opinion, that's kind of where it lands. Can I do anything for you? I hope you feel better. Because we could all be diagnosed with ugliness. Because we all got it in us. And if we want to get to that place. So, when you hear something like that, I hope you feel better.
Boy, that is a write it down moment. We could all be diagnosed with ugliness if we choose to have that stuff in there.
Sure.
We all got it in there. Yes. Elizabeth, thanks. I'll be just fine on the mend already. God bless you. We live in a world that is filled with this place right now. This has gone on for longer than what anyone would think. And I think, the common cold has never found a cure, and it's a virus. The flu, right. It comes back every year with a vengeance, and it's different every year. Maybe we have something else that's a virus that, there's no one to blame, but we have to literally, what is important? The anxiety and the grief are in this big, heavy suitcase we're carrying around. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And your post on your Facebook page for Transcending Turbulence, healing is the end of conflict with yourself.
Yeah, then I went on a big old rant, didn't I? Because I say rant, it really wasn't a rant. It was a drop in or an upload or a download or whatever people want to call it. Because when I posted that, I was getting ready just to post it and hit send. And then all of a sudden, the brain opened up, and I just started in my notes in my phone. If I showed them to you, you would cringe. But I just started like writing everything down that was coming into me. And then I was like, you know what? This is the rest. This is the second part of that post. And
That's
it's
right.
very true. When we end conflict with our healing is the commitment to end conflict with ourselves. Because we can say so-and-so made me mad, or so-and-so did this, or so-and-so did that, or they did da. The only person responsible for how we show up is us. And if we're choosing, whether we want to call it the high road, the other road, the back door, whatever, however we choose to, addressing that so that we feel good about ourselves and we're not intentionally just trying to be a jerk to somebody else. Sometimes you got to stand your ground and set boundaries, and you do come off a little abrasive. But
yeah,
you're right. This, in even thinking about doing that can stir anxiety for people. It can stir, I don't want to make them mad. I'm just going to sit over here and be quiet,
Well, I love how you opened the post. Loss can feel like a thief in the night, stealing those things we may not have even yet realized we have or need. We become so lost in our loss. Lost in our loss. That's so good. And unprocessed loss that the thickness of grief paralyzes us on deeply profound levels. That anxiety, the grief comes together and we become depressed and we don't even realize. I mean, it just, this weekend, I got, somebody reached out, and Stan Moress, who is a dear friend of mine, passed away. He did not pass away from COVID. He had a long struggle, a valiant struggle with Parkinson's, and he used his Parkinson's to elevate the treatment and the research, and he spoke out on it, and he created organizations and worked with organizations. He used every day that he had, whatever he was dealt, to bring the world betterment. That's who he was. And I don't know, but that was like the straw for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was the straw. And I'm going, I can't handle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are leaving Facebook altogether, or Instagram, or whatever. They're not answering their phone. How do we stay in life and deal with the kind of grief that we're going through?
First, recognizing the people who exacerbate that grief, and recognizing the people who are willing to create space for you to have it. You can collect your tribe of people, and if they are dramatic, or did you hear, or oh my God, this, that, one side or the other kind of thing, we have to be responsible with our own emotion and our own well-being, our own mental health, to know when that type of person is too much. Doesn't mean you don't love the person. It just means, I heard a great analogy about, if that person is a balloon and you're holding them right here, just give them a little slack there and let them kind of float off just a little bit up out of the immediate zone, because then you can get clarity on what feels good to you, and you'll know, am I tolerating, am I not accepting or not processing my grief because I just have so much coming in on me. Because a lot of times we're anxious about stuff, and we won't work on the anxiety because the change makes us anxious.
Well, here's something that I have instituted in my life. I have my list of people that I'm losing, and every day I write them down, and I can't handle it all here. And I was sitting outside by my fire pit, and the stars were beautiful. The sounds of the night were beautiful. And I had my own release of those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote their names on a piece of paper. And I wrote all the things about them that I loved about them, and what they gave to me and how they blessed me. And I put it in the fire and let that smoke go up. And I released those people back, just my own little ritual, because, we've had a lot of our rituals taken away or infringed upon. It's just hard. So I encourage everybody as a what to do to help just to transmute the poison, so to speak, is literally have your own release moment. Talk to them. Let go in a physical, tangible way. And I think that's really, really important. Whether you get to go to a funeral or a celebration of life or whatever, create your own release.
And, doing that honors your emotion. It honors the friendship or the relationship. Have to be careful not to be sucked back into all the other people that might be. Facebook and social media it's a hot button thing, because like you said earlier, you post something and it can be intentionally or otherwise taken the wrong way. So, sharing, I call those burning bowl ceremonies it is, it's where you, I have a fire pit and I have certain stones that I've painted certain words on. And then I have the pebbles in there. What are the little pebbles called? Pea gravel.
Oh, yeah.
Have that in there. And then I have an angel that sits in there and I put candles in there. And I do the same thing. It's more of mine. It's different from other people's, just like yours is a starry night. And, it's whatever works for you individually,
right. Right.
And being able just to have that and to have that release, it allows you an individual and an intimate moment with that person, however they touched your life.
Right. There are two words that come to mind is our answer when people say, how are you? Okay. And I'm fine. Those things might be true. We might be okay. Okay. But I think when we start being very honest about where we are to ourselves. Now, you don't have to, Joe Schmo goes by, hey, how you doing? He does not want to hear that all of your stuff necessarily. But if we ask ourselves in the mirror, how are you? We need to be able to be honest with ourselves so that we can heal and we can process. Let's talk about some of the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and grief and how they come together. Some of the things we may not realize in our patterns of daily that, I didn't even realize that was a symptom of anxiety or depression or grief.
Avoidance. That's one of them. I'm just going to throw that out there. Procrastination is one. Okay. I mean, seriously, avoidance, procrastination, emotional eating or drinking, even if it's, and I'm not talking about eating a gallon of ice cream. I'm talking about just like, I know I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. I'm going to withhold that from myself. Or I'm not really hungry, but I'm going to eat anyway. That's not over or under indulgence. It's just being aware of how we can tend to self-soothe when, there's other healthier ways to do. So, a sense of numbness. Numbness is our grief, our anxiety. It is the depression as well. There's a lot of traveling companions that come together and, it's kind of like they're off to see the wizard. They're skipping down the yellow brick road and they go so well hand in hand that it's hard to tease them out to figure out what it is. But if you take a moment to sit with yourself, right. And how am I? What am I feeling? The first things that are going to come up if you're in a negative, a lower vibrational, a dark headspace is going to be, I'm not good. I don't care. This is stupid and I don't have time for this. So challenge that. How am I really feeling? I'm lonely. Feelings of loneliness will come up with anxiety, depression, and grief. And sometimes you're in a crowded room full of people and you feel completely lonely. It's not because you are actually lonely. It's because we're not sharing, because maybe we're not in a room full of people or even one person who can hold that space for us.
You said something important, and this is a write it down thing. Challenge yourself to fight those feelings back. Okay. Not just having those feelings. We can avoid, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I don't want anything. I just want to look ahead the other way. I just want to watch Andy Griffith and shut up. Leave me alone. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going, you processing, letting the tears come. Tim says, right, create and a shoulder to lean on, to listen and be a loving, unconditional, and non-judgmental. Crying is cleansing of the soul. When you release a prayer of love and compassion, helps with the grieving process. Yes. Joyce shares something. Now, Joyce, you are very vulnerable here. And first of all, sorry for your loss. I can't imagine. My sister is my best friend. I lost my only sister 6 years ago this month in a tragic accident, and I have lots of grief and depression issues with that. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing about grief. People say, well, in time, grief gets smaller, smaller, smaller. It doesn't. Grief is there. And we learn to contort our lives around that grief. We're never without it, but we adjust to living in a different version of ourselves.
Yeah. I think when people lose a child, and you deal a lot with that, I don't know even how people get through to the next day, because nothing is ever the same. And you can go, well, you'll get over it in time. No, you don't. You don't. You live with it and you find methods to help you pass those moments as they will come. But here's the deal. Challenge those feelings. Once you've processed, and as you process, when they come back in, I think the challenge is when you're doing unhealthy behaviors and go, well, I'm just sad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when did it happen? 20 years ago? Okay, you need to do something to take the pin out of that bubble of pain and challenge those feelings and go, I'm not just going to sit and nurse those feelings. I have a tendency, and I have, they're just licking their wounds. We get our heart is hurting and we're aching. So we avoid everything. We stay home, and you have to get back into life. And I think the best way to do that is by reaching out and do things for joy and do things that are outside of ourselves. In the programs that I have been a part of, do something for someone else. Give and put yourself and change your heart, what you do with it every day. What do you think about that?
I think that grief is a very individual process. So I think that it's different for everybody.
Okay.
I do think that sometimes we are not in a space, depending on where you are in your grief travels, we're not in a space where we have the energy to do something for someone else. And sometimes we might say, well, I need to cry, but I don't want to cry. For some people, putting a movie in or that will invoke that is helpful. Sometimes it's what we don't want to do is what we need the most, because we have created a society that almost demands that we be strong and we suck it up and we get over it and we're not weak. And that is a huge injustice to the stewardship of being caring, loving, compassionate humans, because we can't be caring, loving, compassionate humans if we can't be caring and loving and compassionate to ourselves.
Ooh, amen.
We've got to be able to be gentle with ourselves.
Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth, thank you for your vulnerability. You're always so honest, and we appreciate your rigorous honesty. My best thinking turned myself into an alcoholic. I need to challenge those feelings and thoughts to stay sober. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean, when we say challenge, it doesn't mean, like putting your nose to the grindstone and shaming or bullying yourself to do it differently. It means looking at it and how can I be the healthiest version of myself? First off, do I want to be the healthiest version of myself? And then how can I be? And then have your list of your go-to people. Have a list of 2 or 3 people that are your go-to people, that if you some people call them their ride or die. If you need to talk it out, they're going to let you talk it out. But the minute that you start going, well, poor pitiful me, they're going to go, hold up, Nellie, let's just put a pin in it right there, because we don't need to do that. Sorry, I have an irritable senior dog here beside me.
Yeah, and telling you to put a pin in it. That's what
Otis's tail touched her, and she was like, "I'm not having it." Like, okay,
boundaries,
right? Boundaries. Living with a mama with boundaries. But we will never heal our hurt if we can't understand, or we're not willing to understand why we hurt.
Amen.
You know,
Find out the why, process, create your tribe, and move into ways to live. Elizabeth says, exactly. Challenging myself doesn't mean beating myself up over it, but like Devon said, it means being rigorously honest with myself.
absolutely.
And one of the things that I think has been pivotal to me is finding ways to say, I survived. I survived. I am alive. I didn't die. So how do I approach my days that I was given? I might have 4 more days than the person who passed away yesterday. None of us know how many days we're going to get, but we are given an extra day. So with this gift of being here on this planet, I think of things, I go, okay, I woke up this morning. I'm going to be grateful that I woke up. How do I use this day to honor not only the people who didn't get this day, but how do I honor myself into this thing? And it's okay for us to throw ourselves into life. It's okay. We're not denigrating the passage of someone else because we keep living.
Well, and then the question is not how's life treating us, it's how are we treating life.
Whoo! I knew you'd come up with the bow, the cherry on top.
There you go. Plop. But it's true, right? How are we treating life? Because life's just happening. It's unfolding and it's evolving and it's happening. The variable in there is how we're showing up.
We literally have only days on this planet. Just literally, we only have days. So how do we make it work? How do we do it? I want everybody to challenge themselves this week into living, processing, or maybe go in the other direction, processing, admitting, living life again, and find out. And so maybe next week we can talk about some of the ways that you have learned to process and how you're using it. Teri, how can people get in touch with you?
I can be messaged here, or I can be found at teripugh.com, TERIPUGH.com, or I'm on Instagram all the time, so they can find me there. Also, we have our launch date, so they can find us on Instagram there as well.
And you can reach me, Devon O'Day at Gmail, and of course via Instagram and Facebook. So join us every week. We're here every week at noon. I appreciate you guys for being here. I think I've acknowledged everybody that was on the broadcast with us right now live. We leave these up. If you're watching the replay, give us a hashtag replay. And we love each and every Wednesday at noon. Elizabeth says, oh, ladies and everyone, thank you so much for our Wednesdays together. It's our little group meeting.
It is. It's our little Wednesday.
Well, you end it the same way every time. How do you do it?